that's
Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about Leela since she's new to the group. So let's get going on Leela's bio. So if variety were the spice of life, Leela's experience would rate 5 chili peppers. No kidding. Multilingual, bicoastal, and Western Hemisphere globetrotter, Leela is an out-of-the-box, Jill of all trades with a keen intellect, big heart, and ability to connect with a wide variety of individuals. With humor, compassion, and insight, Leela works with individuals and teams to align their walk with their talk. She draws from 2 decades of experience working in nonprofit and corporate settings. Her specialty is creating intentional messages that align with the organization's mission and philosophy in integrated and practical formats. Leela has her own practice, Coaching Through Embodiment, where she collaborates with individuals and teams that align with organizations to bring their projects to life through unique and powerful integration of body awareness and practical action planning. So really deep, important work. And Leela, I'm just noticing your picture's not up on the screen, so you might want to put that up so everybody can see you. So sorry I stumbled there when I realized that. But yeah, Leela's work is really interesting, and she and I met actually in an intense coaches training program that spanned over a number of months. And we spent 3-day weekends together, really deepening our learning and getting to know each other. And there's definitely a yin and yang aspect to our energies that I think really brought us together. She definitely has the free spirit thing going on, yet really knows what she's talking about and has a lot of credibility. So I'm just really excited to be working with Leela in this capacity. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Leela, who will get us started.
Well, thanks, Kim. That's great. I'm really excited to be here, and for me, it's been a great pleasure to participate in these 4 webinars, and I'm just so excited because I feel like there's such a great conversation happening, and again, it's just a pleasure. And again, I just want to welcome everybody and thank you for taking this time. And we are hoping, you know, that this is really one of the most valuable sessions today. So thanks for being here. And as we have in the past, we're going to start with a poll to get a sense of who's with us here today. So let's see. Let me see if I can get that going. That's the first one, correct, Kim?
Yes, we're going to check on what's the function, who's here today.
Yep. Okay, so here we go.
And then Leela, just the screens aren't progressing for me, so I don't know if it's stuck or, but in your PowerPoint, I'm not seeing the screens flip.
Okay.
So we have 86% voting.
Do we have the screen up yet?
Yeah, I did it.
Okay,
and yeah, sure. I think we've got all the votes in, so let's go ahead and share the results. Oh, wow. Okay.
Great.
Interesting.
So,
okay.
Great.
A lot of other self-employed, okay. Perhaps consultants, great.
Wonderful. And so I see the opening screen, so can you progress to the next screen, Leela? Sorry, guys, a little technical difficulty today. The poll, I'm going to hide.
Okay, so I'm just having some trouble here.
Okay. Well, we should be able to go ahead without it. They won't be able to see your beautiful face, but
can you see the screen now?
Well, we can see your screen. It's just the slide's not forwarding, as we were discussing earlier.
Okay. So is it forwarded now?
Nope.
So you're still on my face?
No,
nope.
It's on the entry.
Opening slide.
Make 2013 matter.
Wow.
Okay, so we should go ahead and make sure that you are the presenter. So, okay, well, let's go ahead and get going, though, and not worry about the screens, because I think the screens are just the questions anyway, right?
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and we'd like to encourage participation. So today's session is going to run like a live panel discussion with our 3 presenters, with Kim Cadle from Pure Ambition, Jeremy Stover from Connected Advantage, and Paula Schaefer from Westward Advantage. And so we would like to unmute everybody at this point and maybe just try this out. So
muted.
ahead and
Unmuted.
all right.
Okay,
I think we've
so
got everyone
I am
unmuted.
I'm working. Okay, so if you do have background noise and you're in a loud environment, we do ask that you go ahead and remute yourself by clicking on the green microphone next to your name, but we do want to enable conversation. We will watch as new people come in as well and unmute those folks as well. I just saw somebody new come in with their mics not up. Okay, terrific. Okay, Leela,
Great.
go ahead.
Okay, so what we want to try is to actually, do you guys all see the raise your hand button that you have there on your audio screen? If you could just, all of you, just put your hand up. Allison's, yeah, thank you, Allison. We've got Cindy, we've got Carolyn, Caslin. Okay, so when I see your hand, then I'll just call on you. And do you all want to just try saying hello?
I think we've got
Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Hello?
Hello.
Yay, there we go.
Yay. Thanks for bearing
Beautiful.
with us as we get this going. Good.
Yeah, and I think the hand icon is for if you want to add to our responses or have a follow-up question. So
Right.
either one.
So when I see that, so you can go ahead and take your hands down. Thank you. And if I see that up, then I'll know to call on you. So let's get started. The first question that we thought we would go start with is, how did each of your topics, Jeremy, Kim, and Paula, how does your topic relate to building authentic connections? So if you could remind us. Yeah.
Okay.
This is Paula. Why don't I go ahead and jump in? My topic was on the authentic brand connection, and I hope I made the case that in today's economy, you can't successfully build a brand without having authentic relationships on the inside of your organization. So with social technology, the world is so transparent now, and it's easy for external audiences to see what's really going on the inside of your culture and your organization. So for me, authentic connection matters because you need to build trust on the inside of your organization first, and then that gives you the confidence to create together, decide your future, and then ultimately project this, what I call an alive and contagious brand, your public persona, to the world. So that's how my topic related to authentic connection.
Nice, nice. And I would just kind of relate off of that, you know, it really gets back to, again, that internal, you know, why are you in business in the first place? What's your why? And starting with that, and then the how again, the core values really translates to authenticity and really making meaningful, honest connections. And really it's about true voice and not overly censored or conforming. But still being compassionate and respectful of other perspectives. So opening, listening, and contributing from the center, from the core.
Nice.
Great, and my focus is more on the external stakeholders and the connections with them, leveraging those connections, and obviously being authentic is a key part of that. So that the transparency that's required to build trust, and also being willing to to really tap into the power that's there. Requires being willing to co-create and to collaborate and work together with your stakeholders, and so that requires the authentic connection.
Beautiful.
Great, thank you.
Are any of the hands up related to that particular question on authentic connections? Because I still see a few hands. I don't know if those are holdovers.
Carolyn, do you want to say something? Or Cindy, I see your hands up. Or Rachel, did you guys have something to say?
Hello?
Hands went down, except Carolyn Green, your hand is still up.
And Carolyn, you're on mute, so you have to unmute yourself. I don't think we can unmute you.
Hand came and went.
Okay. Well, maybe we can go to the shift in business then.
Okay, great.
Okay, cool.
All right. So what is the shift that you guys see happening in business right now?
I'll jump in on that one first. So, I think the shift in business that we're seeing right now is the result really of our success in the business community. We've been very successful at figuring out how to, leverage a global network of, providers, and work has gotten significantly more complex as a result of that. It's also gotten much more competitive. So in other words, to do better, to continue to keep pace, we need to be better at what we're doing all the time. The other big thing that's shifting is an awareness that because we've been so successful, the negative impacts of business, so what we are consuming, destroying, and polluting, have become much more significant and substantial to the point where we can't continue to do them anymore. So I think there's definitely a dawning awareness that the way we do business has to change to include those things. So again, it's to be able to include and to factor in those externalities increases the level of complexity. So I think the primary shift in business, the essence of it, is an increase in complexity, increase in the challenge, and then how do we deal with that as people inside organizations?
Nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you. Just there's a question from, or actually a comment from Rachel, that we are hearing someone type. So if
Yeah.
you are typing, that's great. Just maybe you want to mute yourself until.
Beautiful.
And Nicole, did you have a question, or were you just saying hello?
Just saying hello.
Okay, cool.
Great.
Great.
Hi.
Cool.
This is Paula. I'll just add in, when you look at what Jeremy just talked about with the layers of challenge, complexity, and competitiveness, and then you add to that we're in this 21st century global economy, like I quoted Thomas Friedman talking about in the global supply chain, the fat is being taken out of every joint. So in this situation, there's these converging pressures and changes, and it's all about creativity and efficiency. They're so critical today to your success. So your team becomes your number one stakeholder, or one of your most important stakeholders. So seeing how valuable your culture is to your success is very important. And what matters now is this collective smartness, creativity, agility, this ability to respond. And there's only one way to coordinate your business, and that's on the inside through your culture.
Good. And I'm going to probably echo what both of you said. This is Kim. And for me, and what's really spawned my work in even the social responsibility sector, is a full circle shift back to kind of relationship-based interactions. And the scales have tipped too far toward short-term financial shareholder profit and away from adding social value, which when you think about it is really the true original purpose of business, really creating win-wins for the business and society at large. And I think that, like Jeremy spoke to with the success that we've had, unfortunately, it's taken a little bit of a backseat as the impact of our actions are not being considered as long as the company's producing a profit. And we really need to come back to that. And I see three things really creating that shift, the shift that we're speaking about. And one is what Paula's been speaking about, is that the world is flat and we are in a global economy. Population increase and the merging of India and China and the impact it has on our resources means we just can't ignore it anymore. We have to take action. And then secondly, we're in the information age, and consumers have knowledge of corporate behavior, and they're holding companies accountable to that, which is a good thing. That's creating a shift. And then last is just the power of business itself. Businesses, corporations use more resources than anyone, and in fact have more of an impact on society in most cases than even the government. So they have the power to make this change for good. And I think those that really understand it embrace their power and get excited by the opportunity that this presents for them. And so for me, the fact is that a long-term balanced approach to people, planet, and profit, and all those things in balance really is the most sustainable business model you can have today.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine that all of you on the call are also seeing the shift in business. And so the next question then we were thinking is, when we learn new things or there's new topics, often, things like engagement or greening the economy can become buzzwords. And so how do you deal with what we're calling this buzzword syndrome? Like, how do you actually get past people's resistance and get to implementing,
Hmm. I'll go
the
ahead
heart
and
of your
answer.
strategy?
Yeah, and I can go ahead and take that one first. This is Kim again. And I would say, really, it's up to you to give it substance, right? If this is something you care about, you're the champion. And so your role and your job is to become that educator and communicator about what it means so it has substance, right? If you just throw around the word, it really becomes a lip service item that people don't take seriously. So as a champion, really giving it substance and defining it for the organization so that they can understand the buy-in and buy into it, that there is something really real behind this. And again, not to oversay it, but it's true if you start with the why it's important, how, and then get to the what.
Great. Any of you want to add to that?
That's great. Yeah, I think it comes down to being aware of how we're talking about it, knowing when we're using shortcuts, knowing when that's appropriate, and when it's better to actually remember what it is that we're talking about. I mean, engagement's not going to go out of style, although the phrase may. Sustainability may go out of style, but it's a problem that we're confronted with. It's going to be here for quite a while. So I think the underlying message of what we're doing is important, and it's not changing. And how can we come in and not just create another program? How can we not just put this into a bucket off to the side and roll out some program that's going to have everybody roll their eyes because it doesn't have legs, right? So how can we make these changes part of our core strategy and part of the way we're really looking to move the business forward, and not just something that we're doing on the side because it sounds like a good idea?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've run into this before, and we deal with language a lot. I've encountered it with the word green and green marketing, and so I like to think about changing the language. And in this case, I might use, instead of engagement, a simple word like relationships. That's a classic word that people can relate to. So talking about connecting or building relationships on a very real and honest level, perhaps even vulnerable level. And also, I like to get stakeholders into the process and not talk about it. So in meetings, I'll move into engagement conversations, and that's another way I like to get around the buzzword.
Great. So any of you listening, I mean, have you encountered anything like this? Buzzword syndrome or just resistance to implementing your strategy?
I saw Emma's hand go up.
Okay, Emma, do you want to chime in?
Good morning. I think about this and I question one of the things that came up earlier in the webinars. One, that when you defined sustainability for our conversation that we're having here, you defined, my question from that, I can't remember exactly what the wording of the definition was, but my question that spurred from that is, why not define all three pillars within sustainability? I think it's interesting that you were focused on sort of the social aspect separately, and part of what I'm working on currently responds to that, in the sense based specifically on engagement, in that you can't really isolate people, you can't isolate the environment, you can't isolate the economy, when those three are so integrated together if you want to define sustainability. And it goes to semantics. I mean, if we can just ignore the word sustainability altogether in that response. But I think it's interesting that people choose, and we're having a discussion around one of those pieces and not considering the interaction between the three. Not that we're ignoring it, but that we chose to have that discussion.
Yeah, this is Kim. I can speak to that a little bit, I think, and that is that we were speaking of sustainability and we defined it as sustainability of the company and strategy, sustainable strategy, and not looking at it from the environmental factor, which is what you're speaking of, and what I think is near and dear to all of us is, I think the three pillars that you speak of. But I think in the context of these webinars, you're right, we went into just purely about where we believe is kind of the groundwork is authentic connections first, and then you can move into those other areas. That's my perspective on it anyway.
Cool.
So I don't know that this is intended to be all three, but I think it connects certainly.
Does that
Carolyn's
answer?
got a hand up again.
Carolyn?
But
I don't know. She's
Whoops, we
had
went two
her
different
hand
directions.
up.
Emma, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a perspective
Yeah.
on, when we're having these, the buzzword, and when we're thinking about that, and that we have to define, what lens we're looking at it through, what paradigm approach we're looking at when we're having these conversations. Yeah, I think that answers the question. I had a second one too that's sort of in general that isn't specifically go to the buzzword, but thinking about that in relationship to the public sector, and just wondered if any of you have had specific experience within engagement in the public sector, especially how it relates to the expectations of citizens and society in general. And I think that buzzwords play into that incredibly when the public requests, the government to supplant something that they see as a hot topic, and then how do they address that, and how do you translate and interpret what that means for everyone?
Yeah, I think when I think about doing multi-stakeholder work, and actually a lot of the early engagements and a lot of the body of work around it comes from the public sector, because they must consider a broader group of stakeholders. I mean, one of the reasons business is so good at what it does is because it for a long time has had one stakeholder, right, the shareholder, and meeting, being successful with only one stakeholder is it's very easy to track and to measure, and then which makes it easy to sort of refine and become very efficient at that single dimension, right? Whereas in the public sector, you've got a variety of stakeholders. And so in some way, the public sector, I think, is almost ahead when it comes to really dealing with the complexity of a multi-stakeholder engagement. And a lot of the cases and a lot of the things that I have been reading about have actually started with and come from the public sector.
Emma, I've done a lot of public sector work too, sometimes on behalf of the private sector, but sometimes just on behalf of a state government or a city municipality. And so we insist on reaching out to all stakeholders, broad groups, and we also do more than community forums and town meetings. We do one-on-ones, we do small groups, we do surveys, so that not everyone responds or comes to the community, the town meeting. So having devices to reach everyone in a way that's comfortable for them, and then mapping and voting, really implementing what they heard and showing them graphically. Hey, we heard you. This is our plan. And of course, it can always get hijacked by certain constituents. I've seen that happen before too. But the more you get people involved and give them different ways to have input and then implement as best you can, the more successful.
Great. Okay, it looks like Carolyn has something she wants to add or ask. Carolyn, are you there? Were you able to unmute yourself?
Maybe her hand's just permanently
No,
up.
I mean, she said she was muted.
Carolyn, maybe your audio is not working.
Oh, maybe
Could be.
it's not working.
So
You could
Carolyn,
type a question.
You can interact with us by typing a question.
Yeah, type the question and
Or feedback, yeah.
Yeah. Or even through your chat window, whatever works.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry about that, Carolyn. If you want to type something in, we'll take it from the pipeline, but let's move on to the next one. And for this one also, if you guys want to just pipe in and let us know where you're at with your business, the question we wanted to ask was, where should a business start on its stakeholder engagement journey?
I think the tool that I sent out a few weeks ago is a great place to start, because it's something you can do without any approval. You just download the tool and start to consider who are your stakeholders, internal and external, and start to bucket them and classify and think about, where are we spending our time and resources right now? Where do we need to be? And it can be the start, a very low-cost way to get started. Just raising awareness and then starting to conceive of what kind of engagement journey is most appropriate.
Yeah, in terms of the culture brand connection, also I think the worksheet that I circulated, there was 2 areas of focus in Zone 1 and Zone 2 where you could actually get started. But there's some other informal and fun ways. I like to have teams do a weekly show and tell. You can do it during lunch, and you can have one of your team members share on anything they want to share, any talent, any passion, inside, outside of work. And that helps build a great culture and learn more about perhaps other skills and gifts that your team has that they might want to contribute that you didn't know about. You can also implement some simple cross-company or even cross-customer social networks, blogging, polls, and surveys. Even just having employees populate their own profiles to show where their expertise and growing mastery is. And then Kim, with her internal engagement work, if you're already doing good employee engagement or any kind of employee engagement, I would encourage you to use it in your branding. Use more of what you've uncovered in terms of your historic milestones, values and beliefs, or personality traits. And I encourage you to turn it over to your branding company. I actually think they would be delighted to see that you've done this inner work, and you're going to give them so much to work with on the brand.
Yeah, that's great. And I would echo really what both of you said. Assessments really are a great place to start. And they really just enable you to know where you are. So then you can determine where you want to go next. And like Jeremy said, you can just do them by yourselves. They don't cost anything. It's just a great way to kind of get the view. What's the view from where you are? And then also, and what Paul is saying, is identifying others in the organization who might be good team members for you on this charge, and just starting to have those conversations and understanding what's important to people, and just beginning there, and then see kind of what organically comes from it.
Great.
I love that. I think making a list of your allies is a really important piece. Who's already on board with this, that you don't even have to convince yourself. Great.
Yeah, I like that too. It flips the old convention that everything is top down, and instead, Kim, I remember in your presentation you talked about you really can change the environment and your culture from the grassroots up, and that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't wait. That's my thing. Don't wait for the top.
Great. Well, unless anybody has anything that they want to add on or a particular story. Speaking of stories, let's hear from you guys again. Do you have a favorite story about, from your personal experiences, seeing the impact of these authentic connections or conversations in the people that you've worked with?
Yeah, I actually do. We've been working in New Jersey recently with clusters of advanced manufacturers around the state. And we had created a promotional awareness campaign in which we were going to attract young people in the state to at least consider a career path in manufacturing. And we had a theme around revolution. And so we recently conducted some focus groups with high school and college students. And we broke format, actually, talk about transparency, from the focus group at one point. And we just started inquiring because they told us that they didn't think the revolution had begun and that they needed to be engaged in developing the revolution. So now we don't have an awareness campaign, we have an engagement campaign. And the manufacturers are actually creating a roadshow and traveling to schools. We imagine students collaborating with CEOs so that they can actually begin to transform advanced manufacturing. So that's a story that really inspired me around authentic connection and listening.
Yeah, it really shows the difference.
Hmm.
You know, when you listen, and that kind of plays into kind of my favorite story, which bear with me, I try not to let it go too long. But a good part of my work is in sustainability, and that's environmental sustainability. And I work with food companies, so we definitely get into sustainable agriculture and what's known as high-risk ingredients and sourcing practices. So think fair trade, organic, natural foods. And so one particular company, Cage-Free Eggs, was the current consumer hot button. And this was a company that did a lot of private label. And so annually, large customers would submit sustainability scorecards to track how the manufacturer was operating from a sustainability perspective. And one of the questions on those scorecards from those two largest customers was, what percentage of the eggs used in your products are cage-free? So a salesperson receives that question and the panic button goes off. Oh my gosh, our customers want us to do cage-free eggs. And that firestorm kind of starts that cage-free is where we need to go. At the same time, the Humane Society had taken up cage-free as an important issue, and they were starting to ask questions. And mind you, they were only asking questions. But because the company was operating within the four walls and not connecting, they made some decisions that they needed to do this and conceded and committed to a percentage of the volume being cage-free by a certain year. So we hear that all the time, by 2015, by 2020, by 2025. So they did that and said by this year we'll have this percentage of our eggs be cage-free. So by the time came for that to happen, there was more knowledge about cage-free eggs. And in fact, some of you may already know this, but a cage-free environment from a sustainability perspective is not necessarily more sustainable. In fact, it could cause more problems because there's not a lot of regulations around what it means to be cage-free, except that the chicken's not in a cage. So you have issues with higher mortality rates, shorter lifespans of the chickens, and food safety issues come up. And really what you want to look for is organic and free range. So at this point, that knowledge is there, the commitment's been made, and really, you know, these customers who are asking the questions are pretty smart people. So it would make sense to just ask them and engage in a conversation. There was a lot of fear around that, and I think that's common in corporations today, is this whole outside-in pressure and fear of just becoming authentic. But there did come a time where it was finally okay when suggested that you just ask, you know, how did you guys conclude that cage-free is an important sustainable focus in your supply chain? And when the question was asked, the response was, oh my gosh, we don't think cage-free is good. We're only asking you because our customers are asking us.
Wow.
Yeah, so what came from that is, you know, from a place of authenticity, was a whole new conversation began just by opening up those doors. And, you know, it was so empowering. And then it went from customer supplier to partners. And really what's the issue here? It's consumer education. And how do we work on that? And in fact, then the Humane Society becomes, you know, starts working with the Egg Producers of America. And, you know, a lot of learning and new solutions came from just, again, creating authentic connections and flipping it from, you know, if we enter the conversation, we're going to be forced to take action, to if we enter the conversation, we get to participate in the solution.
Nice.
Wow. It strikes me how much resources you can waste, time and money, by not entering into the conversation.
Right.
Right.
Jeremy, what about you?
Yeah, it's my story is similar to Kim's in that you know, it's a story about something that happened at Walmart when they'd asked the employees and empowered the employees in some ways to help figure out ways to make their stores more sustainable. And at one store, they got the idea of taking the light bulbs out of the Coke machine in the back, so small savings there. And then they decided that it would be a great idea to take the light bulbs out of the Coke machines up front, in the front of the store. And you know, when you talk about all the stores across, you know, around the world, Walmart stores, it's actually a significant amount of savings. But of course, Coca-Cola got very upset by this. It made their machines look old and tacky. Um, and so, it came down from the top, hey, put the light bulbs back in the Coke machine. And, and at that point, if it had stopped there, the connection would have been broken. It would have just been another buzzword, hey, we want employees to be engaged in this process. And what would have been communicated is, no, actually, we don't really want you to be engaged. We just want to talk about that. But luckily, a store manager stepped in and said, wait a minute, hold on here. Let's have a conversation. Let's stay in connection around this. And so they did the math and figured out how much energy savings there was going to be, and convinced people higher up in the organization to start a dialogue with Coca-Cola. And so they went to Coca-Cola and they said, well, here's what it's costing us. Walmart's all about saving their consumers money. So here's what it's costing our consumers, our customers, to keep your light bulbs on. And we'd like you to go ahead and pay that cost if you're not willing to let us take the light bulbs out. So Coca-Cola said, whoa, hold on a second here. It turned out it was a substantial number. And what they did is they said, okay, we're not going to do that, but instead what we'll do is we'll re-engineer our Coke machines with extremely high efficiency light bulbs so that the cost comes way down. And so now, not only were the Coke machines in the stores in Walmart affected, but actually now all the Coke machines all around the world, all the new ones, have these high-efficiency light bulbs, and it's an incredible amount of energy savings. So again, just by staying in the connection, and then all the trust that built with the employees at that store, all the trust that built with all the employees who heard that story about whoever it was in this one story making that kind of a difference in the world. And so, it was an opportunity where instead of shutting it down, it was allowed to grow and expand and became somewhat of a legend.
Cool.
Cool. That's great, Jeremy.
Yeah. Really cool.
Great. So, any questions from you guys out there? Or shall we just hop to the next question, which we were thinking, how might we start convincing our companies to invest in these strategies?
Yeah, and I think especially in the present economy, this can become a specific challenge.
Right, where budgets are tight.
Right, and yeah, budgets are tight. These are seen, unfortunately, as nice to have frequently. I mean, that's kind of the reaction you get from senior management. Oh, it's a feel-good program. Oh, yeah, this is all great stuff, but it's not really mission critical, right? I don't need it to run my business today. I like to call it important, not urgent in the view of the corporation, but in reality, it's urgent. So it's creating urgency around it as part of it, and that starts with knowing your audience too. So who is the audience that you're trying to convince or that needs to approve an investment? It is a strategy. It's part of your strategic plan. I think Jeremy mentioned it earlier. Don't present it as a program, but an investment in the long-term strategy of the company. And how do you do that? Well, you start with what's in it for them, the old with them for your audience, and the business case that really speaks to what's important to that stakeholder, those stakeholders. Each of us showed in our presentations that these strategies are proven, the business case exists. So it's presenting to your leadership in that same manner. And, the great news is that there's a lot in it for them. So it's really just demonstrating that and showing that it has a long-term payoff.
Great. Does anybody else have anything to say on how you might just different strategies, small steps you could take to get started?
No, that's great. I think the only thing I'd add, and Emma will recognize this, it works great to do a pilot. So, to figure out what you want to do and present it not as a major rollout, but figure out how to pilot it in one small area where the budget's going to be reasonable, and then collect tons of data. So figure out how was it successful, what made it successful. Take a real look at how you might do this, and then then when you go to have those conversations about how to scale it and roll it out to the rest of the organization, you've got some solid data points and can more easily make that business case.
Nice.
You know, for myself, oddly enough, we just have created, since we started from the outside with branding and then we moved into cultures, we now have a wide array of areas that we can start. So usually companies are doing some kind of branding, a website, something. So we get into engagement through branding, but also strategic planning, like Kim mentioned, heritage programs, PR. So we've just found any way that we engage with the company, we go in and do cultural work and get the team all on the same page and energized and working together. Um, so that's our
Yeah,
strategy.
and I would add one more thing too. This is Kim. That also oftentimes there's examples of it already happening within the company. And
Mm,
so if you can
yeah,
uncover, especially with sustainability initiatives or employee programs, there's those departments or those teams that are doing it within their own function and it's successful. So it's uncovering those stories too that help build
yeah,
the case, and it's already inside the company working.
good
Can
point.
be
Yeah.
useful.
All right, so I hear that you're really keeping sort of your business case right in front, and you keep coming back to that. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yes.
For me, yes. Yeah.
So that just takes us to how important it is to just keep chipping away, to
Hmm.
keep your vision at the forefront, especially when the going gets tough, and that, you know, this kind of coming back to this can be just a great way to keep yourself inspired.
Hmm.
So, what would you say, what is the one thing each of you guys would like for us to take away from this series?
Hmm. Who wants to go first?
I'll go ahead and start. I mean, for me, it's to tap into the tremendous life within your community to navigate the future, not just navigate it, but have a thriving future. So, using all of your knowledge and originality and influence and potential within your organization to create a thriving future. And not only for your organization, but I believe that organizations that are operating at a high level of capacity can bump those other organizations in their region or around the country and inspire others to play at a higher level. That would be my takeaway.
Good. And for me, it's the urgency too. We started with kind of what is the shift that we see in business, and I think there is an urgency to all of this. It's kind of like ignore at your own peril. So my takeaway would be, don't wait, start now, whatever that means for you. The shift is happening, be a part of it, and boy, I think I said this in my webinar too. You can make a real difference in people's lives, and that is so rewarding and fulfilling. And it's needed. It's needed.
It's great.
Great.
I I think I mean it's really, I'm just echoing here what you said, Paul and Kim. But figure out what speaks to you, what's one thing that you can do, and start in on it. And even if you never get past the conversation phase, just having the conversation about it inside the organization is a big step in the right direction. I think the more we can start to talk about this and have it be part of or all of the conversation about where organizations are going these days, the more we'll build over time. And I'm not sure that there's easy answers here. I'm not sure that it's simple ways to take these steps. But I think the most important thing is to start talking about them and figure out what's my piece, what's my role in this, and then go out and get support and do what you need to do in order to keep doing your part and taking steps forward in whatever way you have available to you.
Great. Wow. Well, you guys, I mean, for me, again, it's been a privilege to be here and to realize like what a resource it is when we do have these conversations amongst ourselves, and what a great resource your experience represents. How about you guys on the call? Is there something that you would like to hear more of, or is this useful? We've got a little bit of time now. If anybody wants to pop in with a comment. Okay.
I would love to hear
So
some feedback,
I'm
but
gonna,
not today.
yeah, we would
Rather
love
than
to hear
anybody
some feedback
who
from
wa-
you.
who wants to pop in with a comment or a question, and if not, we'll call on people.
Yeah. Cindy Rabbit, any questions, comments? Hi,
And I
Cindy.
found I unfortunately didn't, oops, I did not get to hear Kim's original presentation or Jeremy's. I just came in on Paula's last week, but I think I have to agree with all of you. Just beginning this conversation is valuable and important, and it will affect how things change. I mean, you have to start with a conversation, and so I've really enjoyed listening, and I think it's been valuable.
That means a lot, Cindy, because I know you do organizational development. I know you're doing grants now, but you've got a lot of background in on working, on the inside of organizations. So thank you for your feedback.
Well, you're welcome. And I think part of the reason I've been a little more quiet is my experience now is not with larger municipalities or larger corporations. I'm working with very small companies, and I think the dynamic in a small, particularly nonprofit, is very different from a larger corporation or even a government type environment. So it's been interesting for me to listen to this because, quite honestly, I feel a little out of it in the corporate world because I'm so entrenched with nonprofit. So it's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
Right. And Emma, it looks like you have a comment. Do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I just thought it was so lovely, and I can't remember if it was Paula or Kim that made the comment, but that there's existing, people are already doing things. I think that it's really important to engage, coworkers on that level to acknowledge that there's already people doing things that are making a difference and making an impact, and that can be a place to start or a place to reinforce and justify something that's maybe in parallel. But I think it's so important to have that acknowledgement in place.
Yeah, good point.
Right. Is there anything that you'd like
I
to
love
hear
that.
more of on that account?
Anything that I wanted to add on it? Sorry, I couldn't quite hear that.
Anything more that you'd like to hear about that topic about, implementing it within your inner organization?
I think that if you have any examples that you'd want to share regarding how that has worked positively to engage from sort of that grassroots level upward through organizations, where those pivot points are, at what level that impact grows, if there is any experience there. I mean, I see that that's an option. I just wonder if there were any specific examples that any of you had. That would be fascinating.
Yeah, this is Kim, and I definitely have seen, grassroots in a number of organizations that I've been inside. I've been a part of those, and it really starts with what you were just echoing, which is, the stuff is already going on. So, and what Jeremy reinforced too is finding those champions that already live in the organization and have a passion for these things, and bringing them together. I'm trying to think of a specific, example, because the last company where I worked, we really were able to make a tremendous cultural shift occur. And it really was what I would call a middle up initiative, while bringing below us with us. And it really is through those conversations and, with permission. There wasn't like secret meetings going on or anything. It was more, this is what we're working on. And I would say the middle management, and maybe manager, director level, getting that director buy-in of what's happening at that grassroots level. We want to have lunch and learns, or, we just want to have some I call them street teams, forming street teams of what's important to employees, and getting that employee voice going. Can be pretty tremendous, and then bringing that up a layer and getting buy-in, because you're proving through many programs that it's got legs, and it really has an impact on people's energy for the work. So I don't know if that was too vague, but I would certainly be happy to even talk to you offline more about that if you'd be interested.
Great. And Carolyn, I don't know if it's a technical glitch, but your hand keeps going up. Do you have a question at this point?
Is she able to chat?
I don't want to put you on the spot. Okay.
And I would just ask
Oh.
Emma if that answered that question. for
Oh
you.
yeah, she says she's not touching it. She doesn't know why it keeps going
Oh,
up.
okay.
Okay, great.
And I just wanted to follow on with Emma really quickly and to see
Sure,
if that
please.
gave her more information that she was seeking.
Yeah, I think that it's nice to hear that it's not just starting at that grassroots level, that you've had experience like at the management level that can go both ways. It's helpful sometimes when we look at developing a strategy to decide at which level that we want to start on, and to build that engagement of which direction, and starting in the beginning or starting in the middle or starting at the employee level, or going top down. It's good to hear the different examples and scenarios. Thanks.
Good, good.
Great. Well, again, if there are no more questions, we really appreciate your time. Kim's been saying, we know all of you have really a lot on your schedule, and making the time to be with us has been really great. We appreciate it. So we are going to be sending you 3 things. We're going to be sending you the updated recordings for all of the webinars. Kim, is that correct?
Yes, we're going to send YouTube versions of all the recordings
Great.
in the follow-up, because there was some glitch with Mac computers that appeared in the way GoToWebinar records.
Right. Okay, great. So that's coming. And we'll also be sending you a survey that we would really love for you to participate in, so we can get some feedback on, just how to keep enhancing our offerings. And the last part is a really exciting offer. If you're ready to take significant action, then Jeremy and Kim and Paula have put together, I think, a really unique offer, and those details will be in your mailbox. So please watch for that. So once again, you get, 5 minutes more back in your day. And I just want to thank all of you, and thanks to Jeremy and to Kim and to Paula and for all of you for being here. And let's keep those conversations going and authentic connections, and I think it really will make a big difference in the world we live in.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. Thank you, everyone. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
Paula.
your time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.